What drives winning? What allows teams to win championships? But not just one championship, teams that win year after year. Follow me on this journey to talk with coaches all across the country to uncover what separates average teams versus champions. Hey, my name is Ryan Romano, and I'm your host here on the Championship Corner podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of the Championship Corner. I am here with the fabulous Miss Amy Smith, who is the current head gymnastics coach for the brand new program over there at Clemson University. A little bit about her. She was the MRGC, their team was conference champs in 2022, and she was the MRGC Coach of the Year in 2020. So I appreciate you jumping on and chatting with me today. And I'm super excited to learn more about not only you as a coach and what makes you unique, but also this brand new program that you're getting to build from the ground up.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's just start there, jump in and give us updates on where the program is and, where you are in terms of building it up, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's like you walk into something and there's nothing. We don't have a leotard. We don't have any Nike gear. And the Nike gear orders actually happen a year out. And it's like, well, I wasn't here in October of last year. So, it's just all these things that you don't think about when you actually step into a program, and a lot of that stuff is there. So that's been very interesting, really literally starting from the ground up and getting this whole thing started with Clemson, which has been really cool.
Yeah. So I know we got to chat a little bit prior, but there was a couple things that I didn't know about and super intriguing as you guys kind of head into this season, so to speak, what you guys will be doing as you really prepare to ramp up for next year when you get in full competition mode.
Yeah, I think really everything that we've done in this preseason has been ramping up to next year. It's obviously a very different situation, and kind of what I was telling you, it's preseason, the girls are so conditioned to what this timeline looks like to get ready for January. And I think kind of the end of September, early October, a few of them were panicked and oh my gosh, we're not going to be ready. And it's okay, well, we're on a different expectation, different timeline. We're going to do some club meets this year. I think we're doing 3 of them. We're going to start in February. So totally different, and we're just getting them out there to kind of keep that edge, get them out in front of people so that we don't take a full year off.
Yeah.
Obviously too, I didn't realize that we would have a team this year. So that was kind of another caveat of oh, wow. Okay. Cause in gymnastics, you don't see athletes redshirt typically unless it's for an injury or, getting back and that kind of thing. So that was another unique thing that was thrown my way, which very happily so, because I'm excited with the 7 that we have here right now. But once again, that kind of, put us on another different timeline of what we were doing and all of that. But really everything that we've been doing in this preseason is to get us stronger and better for next year. And we kind of were talking about, what's been cool is that, I was saying, different expectation, different timeline. We've been able to kind of take a step back and not just routine, let's get it going, but look at some technique stuff. We've been working on upgrades, which has been super fun. And now the girls are starting to feel some of that work that we've been doing and just upping our level of gymnastics and what our technique looks like and what our shaping looks like. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting, and even more so for them to feel it now. So it's cool.
And that's unique in and of the aspect is, obviously everybody craves growth and progress drives happiness. And when you can actually see and feel that progress, it makes it, 10 times more exciting, 100%. Yeah. So with the club competitions, forgive my ignorance, is that is there club college gymnastics that you guys would just compete in, or how does that work?
We're going back USAG, and we've got a few competitions and meet directors that were hey, we want to help you guys out. Yeah. They're going to we're still kind of working out all the logistics of what it all looks like, but the amount of support that we've had and people just wanting to see us succeed has just, it's been incredible. It's been awesome. So, so yeah, we've had a lot of support on that, and just people wanting to help us out. So we're jumping in on those club meets. Like I said, we're going to start in February, and then I think we're doing 2 in March, and then that's kind of it. But
yeah. So what ultimately was the driving force for you to want to jump in and take on this
craziness.
project? Yeah. As we were talking about controlled chaos.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like in my career, I'm at my best when I'm doing things that have never been done. And as a head coach, my goals have always been to be able to be at a Power 5 and to win a national championship at a place that it's never been done. I was the team captain of the first UCLA national championship team. That whole experience has shaped me into who I am today, and formed me as a coach, and just what my goals are and what my expectations are. And never in a million years would I have thought that, a program, a university like Clemson would come along and say, hey, we're going to start a gymnastics program. And when this opportunity presented itself, and I kind of started talking to them and hearing their expectation and that they want to win national championships. And it was like, oh my gosh, like sign me up.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
This in my wildest dreams, I didn't think that this situation would be presenting itself. So it seemed like just the perfect fit. And it's funny because there's been times along the way, even during like the groundbreaking ceremony, and RAD Graham, who's fantastic, has been like, hey, no pressure, no pressure. And I'm like, no, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
To be a part of an athletic department that wants to work at this level. Because a lot of places say that they do, but really at the end of the day, it's different. And for me, that's the stuff that gets me excited of like, oh my gosh, like, let's go. Like, this is, I just keep saying I hit the jackpot, and I absolutely did. And I know that. And that's what invigorates me every day, is to keep tackling this chaos and just chip away at it, and build this thing into what it can be. Cause I think it can be really spectacular.
Yeah. So when you stepped foot into this new role, what were some of those things early on? You like those initial things you had to get done quickly? Obviously a building would be the big one, but like, what were some of those things as you started to jump in this role?
I mean, really, honestly, it was recruiting right from the get-go, because we were behind the 8 ball, right? It's like recruiting changed this year, which kind of, in a way, helped us with the new recruiting rules and not being able to, recruit 9-year-olds. And
yeah,
that helped a lot. The portal helped a lot, but really, it was honestly like, oh my gosh, we've got to get going on recruiting, because we weren't just recruiting for 1 year. We were recruiting a whole team, Obviously, the 6 that ended up coming from Utah State helped us out a ton. Lily Lippett coming into the mix, and adding her in, which we didn't think we were going to do. We thought we were going to stick with those 6, but like, she came into the picture, perfect fit for our culture, for our team. She's been phenomenal. But then, we've got 7 athletes, and it's like, in a normal year, you're, looking at, okay, well, I lost a competitive beam routine and a competitive bar routine. That's what we need to replace for this year. And it's like, you look at a lineup, and I've got 6 athletes that I know, competitively how they are. And then obviously adding Lily, who's got a great pedigree behind her as well. But like, trying to figure out, how do we build a team?
Yeah.
And it was 23s and 24s that we needed to do. So that was a very unique situation, a little stressful, because it's like, coming into it too, you don't really know, we don't know our demographic, our client, like who's interested in doing this. And so that was a really cool process too, in finding the athletes that got excited about doing something that's never been done. Got excited, like, you could see this, as cheesy as it is, but you could see the sparkle and the glimmer in some of those athletes' eyes looking at the renderings. And, some people needed to walk into the big gym that's already done. And like, but to see those athletes that could see the vision and genuinely got excited about, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of this. I need to get in on the ground level of this and help build this. I get chills like
Yeah, yeah,
talking,
yeah, no
because
doubt.
to be able to find those people and bring them here, once again, I just feel like we've got something that's so special and so unique, and I'm just beyond excited to do it. So it's, that whole process was really cool and,
Yeah.
and different, you know, it's like just a different, deeper level of seeing that excitement. So
Yeah, because I would assume like the whole recruiting message is completely different because you're
we have nothing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
100%.
you've got to find those people that buy even more, buy into the vision of what we're doing. And like I said, it was cool. It was
Yeah,
very cool once we got into it, and like I said, found those athletes that you're like, man, we got a great group.
yeah. You mentioned too about uh like being a high performing, high competitive athlete yourself and
Mm.
some of those tools that you've used. Like what are some of those things like as you stepped into coaching in and of itself that like translated over? And then I guess like part B would that be is have you had to tweak, change, and adjust because of this generation of athletes as you've developed as a coach?
Yeah, I think any coach that wants to continue to grow and evolve, you got to have that growth mindset. You got to adapt to what's coming down the
Yeah.
pipeline.
Yeah.
And you know, not getting stuck in your ways and being able to do that. So I think as an athlete, you know, I'm very highly competitive.
Yeah.
I very much like to work at a very high level. And for me, I mean, as a club athlete, I wasn't a national team member. I wasn't one of those Olympians. You know, I was an okay level 10 that you know, ended up at UCLA, did my first year at Oklahoma, transferred to UCLA, and was able to literally have a storybook career in what I did there. And I think, you know, obviously working with Valerie Kondo's field and working with her early in her career and watching it evolve and how she coached, I obviously take a lot of that
Yeah.
in my coaching and coaching the person and realizing that everybody's different and you've got to meet people where they're at and not have this overall arcing kind of, you know, if you don't fit in this box, it's not gonna work. So, and I think that's part of what for me, and I think, you know, Eric too, my associate head coach, that we find really fun about college gymnastics is that keeps it different, is that each person you coach is something different and figuring out what makes those each person tick, because it's totally different with each person.
Yeah.
And you know, and you have people coming from all different backgrounds, you have people coming from different clubs and different techniques and all of that, and that's part of what I love about college coaching is all the it's different every year with each person that you have come in, which is cool.
Yeah, as much as, especially, I think just sports in general, as much as people think of it as, which it is like a performance thing, but it's really, if you like peel back the layers of the onion, it's really a relationship business
Mhm.
ultimately. And it's like the more that you can understand them, the more that you can connect with them, is like that's what's going to drive their performance,
When you
right?
get that trust, when the trust is there and all of that, I mean, that's yeah, exactly. It starts
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
relationships and that.
Because even in like, that's kind of like my whole mindset, so to speak, is like if I can help upgrade the person, then the athlete almost takes care of themselves. If I can help them see
100%.
themselves in a different light, then their performance, it's like the way they wake up in the morning, it just it almost naturally flows out of them.
100%. Yeah. You take care of the person and then the gymnastics,
Take
yeah, like you
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
follows suit.
So describe some of your, I'm a big culture person, as you said, is like as you're going out on this recruiting journey and getting people to understand and buy into like what your culture is kind of, I guess, peel back the onion, let us behind the curtain on like what your culture like looks like as you build this program.
Yeah. I mean, I think really where like the foundation of where we work from is we talk about attitude and energy all day long. And you 100% can control those two things.
Yeah.
And not that we need it to be rainbows and sunshine every day, but it's, you know, you got to be a good teammate and you got to come ready to bring it. And on top of that too, it's, you know, there are days where you might have 65%, but it's communicating and like talking to the coaches and being like, hey, look, like I've got this chemistry test that I'm super stressed out about. And really in that realm too, we may be like, well, do you want to get out of here today? Like what makes sense? Because once again, some people are like, no, I need to be in the gym. I need to like
It's their
compartmentalize
sanctuary.
that
Yeah.
and have 3 hours where I'm just sweating and working and I'm not thinking about chemistry. And some people might be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I need that extra time to be okay and do that. And we really work with our athletes in that area and just ask, you know, that attitude and energy. We feel like that's kind of the baseline of where you have to work from to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would be, in your opinion, what's the big difference between like average culture and like what I would like term as like championship culture?
Yeah.
Because I think like culture is like one of those buzzwords to me, right? Like it gets tossed around a lot. It's kind of like leadership and confidence, and there's like no real, like a lot of people don't have like a real metric or definition of like what that looks like. Versus like if you, to me, it's always like if you look at like the great dynasties, right? Like the 90s Bulls or the Lakers or the Yankees and those type of teams, it's like they have a very strong like culture that's put in place. And so it's like bringing in those right people. So for you, like what are those big differences between kind of that average buzzword culture versus like that culture that wins year after year after year?
Yeah. You know, I think you talk about average culture. I think that's just, you know, average to below culture would be people showing up, no kind of game plan, no what the expectations are of who we are, what's our identity, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this last year at Utah State of like, I mean, I guess as cliche as it is, I mean, and literally, I think in the last 2 weeks, we talked about this with our 7 that are here. Good teams are coach driven and, you know, you give that message, but you can't have a great team until the athletes take ownership, and nothing is more impactful than an athlete driven team that, like I said, takes that ownership. And at the end of the day, they've got to buy in and be all in with what the coach's message of that culture is. And I think we saw that come into play last year at Utah State, in that, you know, building that culture and getting that buy-in. We had 2 bad regular season meets, which was the greatest thing that could have happened to us is that we tanked the last 2 meets. And I had that talk with the team of like, guys, like we've been good so far. Our goals and what our expectations are to be great and to win this conference championship. It's not going to happen until you guys take ownership of this. We've got you as far as we can go. What are you guys going to do with this now?
Yeah.
And they literally said, we are good attitude and energy from the first routine to the last routine. We don't care what happens. We're treating every routine like it was a 10. Energy is on an 11. And they literally did that at our conference championship and literally did a repeat of it at regionals. And so with that being said, we've got 6 of those athletes that were a part of that, that we just really feel so strongly that they're going to be able to help expedite that culture component here and now, because they know exactly what flies and what doesn't fly with Eric and I. And they've now won a championship. They broke so many records at Utah State. They understand how impactful that attitude and energy is to the success and what limits you as a team. So we feel, I mean, I just feel so like grateful that they're here and to help expedite that, because culture is hard. It is hard. And I guess, you know, talking about the chaos of stepping into this situation, that was part of the allure of it too, of like, I'm not walking into somebody else's house
Yep.
and having to rearrange and
Mhm.
and get the culture that I want and kind of tweak. And people are like, well, this isn't what I signed up for, you know? So there was part of an allure of like starting from the ground up of like, yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's hard, but there's there's something with that as well, being able to literally build it.
Yeah. So as you really push that like athlete driven like focus and taking ownership of the team, do you look for are you one that like looks for necessarily specific individuals, or do you look like across the board from like I don't care if you're a freshman, I don't care if you're a fifth year, to take that ownership? Kind of what is it that you look for?
Yeah. Yeah. My philosophy is, and you know, and it's I feel like it's a little different in gymnastics, right? It's like you have athletes that come in as a freshman that have maybe more competitive, higher level experience than maybe a senior. Obviously, a senior has that collegiate
Right.
experience and that knowledge, but like we really want everybody to have a voice, and we would never quiet a freshman and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I feel like everybody brings value. And if somebody's passionate about something, you want that passion, you want that to, you know, that voice to be heard. And um so yeah, I've never been somebody, there's been some schools that I've been that at that are like, oh no, like yeah, the freshmen, they got to learn the ropes. And I'm like, no, they have value too,
Yeah.
and have stuff to say, and their experience, everybody has their different experiences. So you want to build off of everybody's uniqueness. And I think those are the things that make teams the strongest, is when everybody feels like they have input
Yeah.
into the collective whole and the collective success of what's happening.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree because I feel like a lot of times, even when it can get sticky if like captains or leaders are even voted on in the beginning of the season because it can the scary part about it is it can build that hierarchy, right? Of like, oh, now there's those two at the top. Like maybe that's their job to say this. Should I speak up about this, or do I just go to them? Versus like if there is a locker room meeting, just the ability to like, hey, X, Y, and Z doesn't fly, whatever the conversation may be. So yeah, I totally agree that I believe everybody's a leader when you're in a group. Now there's different roles with that, but everybody has like their own leadership
They have
ability.
something to add. Everybody has something to add. And that was one of the things too, when I talked about with the team of like, everybody needs to go around and say something. It's not just like, let's wait and see. No, like really, like give a good and a bad to what's happening. What do we need to work on? What's something that was great tonight, so that you get that input, you know?
Yeah. How do you how do you continue to keep the 7 that you have right now, like, inspired and motivated, knowing that because a year can seem so far away?
No, for sure. You know, I think we've kind of got over that hump on that. And like I was saying, you know, I mean, we've been working upgrades, we've been working technique stuff, and you know, it's crazy. It's 2023 right now. Like we're in it. Like it's
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
it's here. And you know, when they come back after the break, we'll be competing in a month. So I feel like we've weathered that storm, and I think we've weathered it really well. I think we've definitely gotten better in this
Yeah,
time. And like I said, that's exciting, because it's like everything we're doing right now, we're putting in our toolbox for next year.
yeah,
So so yeah, and I think they're excited about that, like I said. And um it's just, yeah, it's so different, you know.
yeah.
It's going to be interesting to get on the floor at a club meet and do this with these guys. It's going to be fun, it's going to be different. And like I said, everything we're doing, we're building for next year.
Yeah. So speaking of different, what are those aside from being like a brand freaking new program, what are those 2 or 3 things that make your program now specifically unique from others?
Oh man, I mean, I think Clemson in general, one of the really cool things right from the get-go of, I mean, the second time I was on campus after I'd done my interview and I had accepted the job, Eric and I came and we went to a softball game. And I don't know if you're kind of privy to all this information, but we're actually the fourth women's sport that Clemson has added since 2016.
Okay.
So they added women's golf in 2016. 2019, they added softball. Obviously, that 2020 year, COVID happened, they got shut down. 21 season, they were ACC regular season champions in year like 2.5, right? Like craziness. When I came on my interview, they were telling me that a lot of people in the athletic department were upset because they can't even get into softball games because they're sold out. And so, like I was saying, I did my interview. I came back for the second time. Eric and I were here. We got to go to one of the softball games. Packed, completely packed. Awesome. Like 10 people came up to me. Oh my gosh, you're the new gymnastics coach. We can't wait for gymnastics. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm at a softball game. These are softball fans.
Yeah.
But then you slowly realize, no, they're Clemson fans. And to be, you know, a year and a half out from when we even start and to feel that buzz is so special. I mean, I've been in a lot of places. I've been all over the country. And that alone, from just being here the second time and that happening was just, there's a different energy here and a different buy-in to Clemson athletics. And I mean, literally I was down with the golf cart down in the little downtown area back in September. And I'm sitting there and some lady rolls down her window and she's like, we get a gymnastics team. I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, it's like stuff like that. Like, I mean, I think that is something that's so unique to hear. And I'm so excited to pack Little John and to show this community what collegiate gymnastics is, because as we know, it's something really cool. It's very special. And to be able to share that with a whole nother demographic and get collegiate gymnastics out there. Oh my gosh, like how cool is that? Right?
Yeah. Same kind of question. What are 2 or 3 things that make you unique as a coach?
I think the fact that, you know, as an athlete, I've been able to achieve at the highest level, kind of having that national championship in my back pocket and understanding, you know, what it took to get there and not being one of those super high level athletes coming in and being able to do that. I think that makes me unique as a coach and understanding and developing athletes. I think just the energy that I bring, I definitely like to bring that high energy and kind of what we were talking about before, being able to meet athletes where they're at and understand that everybody needs something different in each situation, you know, and being open-minded enough to be able to do that and kind of, you know, not have that coach's ego of like, no, I got to coach this person up right now because that's what I feel like they need. It's like, no, really, what do they need? Like some athletes, you just got to get out of their way, right? It's like, you got this and like, send them out, you know? So I think that component of it, and I think that's kind of with, you know, Eric and I too, we both kind of work from that realm and feel like we've done, it's helped us and we've been able to develop our athletes at a very high level with doing that.
So with, because I guess it's unique, special is you and Eric coming into this, you've worked together before, so you already have that relationship between each other, and coming off of last year, coming off of winning a conference championship. And as you look to really establish, you know, your program on that like national level, what is it that it takes of like not just winning something one time, right? Like I call it like roller coaster teams. It's like they have a really great season and then maybe a mediocre season, or they go and they like live on like this. And it's like, oh, we'll be good like when our freshmen are seniors, or we'll be good when our sophomores are seniors. So as you really develop that, like what are those things that it takes to compete at a high level, but stay competing at a high level and not fall off?
I mean, that's like the $1 million question, right? I mean, it's like, as I come into this, you know, I feel like we achieved at that high level last year. Haven't, you know, been able to sustain that as a coach. And obviously in my 5 years at Utah State, it was building to that, right? And I think it comes to, obviously we'll have this conversation in 5 years and I can tell you, yeah, okay, my plan actually worked. We were able to do that. Right. But I think it comes down to that consistency. I think it comes down to, like what you said, it's being very strategic in the people that you bring into your program. Right. And that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot, is like, we feel like we can develop. So if we find the right attitude and energy and the right person that fits our culture and all of that, and they're motivated, we feel like we can get them there. And being strategic and finding those people. Yeah. And just the consistency and making sure that our message is constantly being put out there and that's heard, and that we've got that buy-in. I think obviously one of the teams that has been doing it at a very high level is OU. I mean, my gosh, like KJ's figured it out, and it's inspiring and it's motivating, and trying to figure that out for us, because that's what we want to do. We want to be one of those teams that, obviously we got to get to the point that we're winning a national championship, and then how do we figure out, how to stay there? And I think it starts with us coming out of the blocks and really putting our stamp on the ACC. I mean, oh my gosh, like we didn't even talk about the fact that we're starting a new Power 5 conference for gymnastics. Like, what a great honor, responsibility, all of that, like privilege for us to do that. Oh my gosh. So being able to start out doing that right from the get-go, right? And then it's like, then you build to regionals. It's like, where are we going to be at? Like pushing to that Sweet 16 spot. And then obviously building to being top 8, and then just continue to chip away at what that, climbing that ladder. Yeah. So, which once again, I get chills, I get excited about doing that. And it's exciting.
Yeah. Kind of two questions left is what's one thing you would like to tell everybody that's listening just about Clemson Gymnastics?
I mean, kind of just everything that we've been talking about, just the level of excitement, like I was saying, talking about ACC and all that, to be able to be a part of bringing on another Power 5 program. This hasn't been done for 20 years since Arkansas did it. And just realizing how much Clemson, like literally from the president of our university, Dabo, our administration, like everybody here wants us to be successful. Mm-hmm. And that's special. It's unique. We feel it. Our recruits, their parents, everybody that's stepped on campus has felt it. And we realize what a great responsibility this is. And we want to do it right. We want to do it at the highest level that we possibly can. And we want to inspire other schools to want to do this and to understand what a great product collegiate women's gymnastics is, and understand that, hey, we plan on coming out of the gate strong, and that you can have a program strong out of the gates. The landscape of gymnastics right now has never been better to do that, in my opinion. So, I think that's kind of the message of like all those kind of prongs of things. I mean, there's so much with it, right? I mean, this is such a big deal. So
last question would be, going back to put your athletic hat back on, and if you go back in time there and you could give one piece of advice to athletes today, what would it be?
From when I was competing?
Yeah, your perspective.
Oh man. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like, you got to love what you're doing, right? And I talk about this all the time. We don't have to do this. We get to do it, right? And if you're not loving it and not enjoying it, and I think it's hard for gymnasts sometimes, because we have more mileage on our body than any other athlete that steps on campus. We've been doing gymnastics longer, our sport longer than anybody. So it's like, your identity is so wrapped up in that. But at the end of the day, you've got to enjoy it. And I think that would be the biggest thing, is like, got to have fun doing what you're doing, because what we do isn't easy. Is it worth it? Yeah. There are times where it's hard, and you've got to do those hard things to, you know, to push yourself, to get out of your comfort zone, to grow and evolve. And that's part of what this sport does, is it helps you grow and evolve. And but if you're not having fun with it, you know, that's a big component of it.
No question about that. So tell everybody that's listening, like where they can kind of continue to follow along this journey. Obviously, I'm sure there's some social media aspects. I'm sure you guys have your own page on, Clemson's website. But for people that want to like continue to follow along this journey, jump on board on the train and be excited about, what you guys are building, tell everybody where they can kind of find that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously social media, we've got our Instagram page, we've got Twitter, we've got all the social media stuff. And then obviously our Clemson site. One of the big things that be looking for, we're kind of shifting gears on this, is, I talked about it being a huge responsibility. Our goal is to sell out Little John. That's 9,000 seats in Little John for our season opener. I mean, for literally the whole year. Like, that is the goal. So be on the lookout for our tickets to be coming out. We want the support. Like I said, we want to inspire other Power 5 schools and just schools in general to add gymnastics, because we all love this sport, right?
Yeah.
We want to see it grow. So I think the more that everybody can get on board and help us be as successful as we possibly can, that's only going to trickle down and inspire other people to be like, yeah, this is something we got to do. So yeah.
100%. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me today. Like I tell everybody, hopefully my goal for like having these conversations with coaches all across the country is really just to be able to take one nugget away. Like, what's one of those things that, you can learn either about yourself as a coach, if you're a parent of an athlete, to be able to educate them, because the idea is, like you said, it's to be excited about these things, to love what you do, to not wake up and feel like these things are a job, but I always say there's a big difference between being motivated and being inspired. And being motivated feels like you have to like willpower yourself out of bed, versus being inspired pulls you out of bed. And so hopefully you guys found some inspiration in this. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.